shall move on to the SSE Arena, as they call it these days. We all know it as the Odyssey. Luis Alberto Lopez with a fifth round knockout win, defending his IBF World Featherweight title against Mick Conlan, the home fighter. Rob, we'll go to you first. Bunsey was there. It was a great atmosphere. Bit of a hit and miss card, to be honest with you. Thought the first couple of rounds, Michael was doing okay, getting the jab going, getting the left to the body. But from about the end of the second round, just looked at him. You could hear the punches thudding into his ribs from ringside. The right uppercut was just missing on occasions. Lopez, very unorthodox, but he does get there with the shots eventually. He doesn't really jab too much. I felt like Conlan's face was swelling up. He felt to me like he was fighting just to stay in it. And from the third round, it was an uphill battle. I'll tell you what, that right uppercut, we were right there in front of it. It was an absolute shot from the gods. No better way, a world-class shot to finish a world-class fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad for Mick. Obviously wanted him to do it, like, but looking at the fight when it was going on, I said to the lads after the second round, I was like, I don't think Mick Conlan's going to last the 12 here. I could see, I obviously wasn't ringside, but I could see, I think the way you described it is the best way, because we were criticizing kind of his game plan a little bit, like saying, why is he not on his bike? Why is he choosing to stand toe to toe with this guys? But I think like some of the early shots just took it out of him, and he was rooted a little bit into trying to fight for survival. And while like he's a class boxer and that, like I don't know if he's like like prone to get knocked out, or he stayed hit from the wood fight. But whatever happened after the second round, I think there was a zinger there towards the end of it, and I just saw him stiffen up a little bit, and I thought that's why he's holding his feet a little bit more. When I was looking back at it, it's like you said, like fighting to survive, but you're playing with fire, being in mid-range, and he's so good at Lopez is so good at kind of launching into, like, he's so unorthodox. Like they always spoke before, sometimes like if you're fighting a guy that's unorthodox, sometimes they can look better or make a really technically good fight look bad, because you don't know where the punches are coming from. And I thought the way he was like leaping in with lead lefts in that last night out into range, and every one of them was carrying power, that I thought he might will towards the second half of the fight. I was obviously willing him to stay in it and win it, but I thought when it was being fought at that kind of pace, with that kind of heavy leather being exchanged, the writing was on the wall, unfortunately. So yeah, sad for Mick. Bad knockout as well, the second bad knockout of his career. Like he's took two vicious kind of, and both uppercuts as well, I think, weren't they? Wasn't the wood one an uppercut as well?
Like a bit of a hook to the side.
It was kind of like one at the top of the head, at the temple there, possibly.
Oh, that's right, yeah, and then out to the
short
ropes,
right against the ropes.
Yeah, so I don't know where to next from him. He obviously needs a long break now. I think he's kind of back. I think he needed to build himself up a little bit back more before taking a challenge like this. I would like to see him out maybe one or two more times. Obviously, that's not the way the biz works. Bob Arum's got him a shot, and that just hasn't worked out for him. Would have loved him to win it in front of his own fans, but Lopez is a bad man. You know, let's have him versus Lee Wood next, if not, or him versus Warrington again, or let's just see the way it shapes up. But you want to see him in fights, and you don't think, and nothing fazed him, by the way. Absolutely nothing fazed him. See the way he walked off after the knockout, fearless, coming to fight, not intimidated by the crowd, entertaining Mexican featherweights. You know, a long lineage of Mexican featherweights, and he's not quite up there with the best of them, but we see how good he can be. But other than that, like on the card, I'm not sure. Like, there wasn't that much more to write home about Kirkachi and a couple of broken hands and Pierce O'Leary. But yeah, the featherweight division's in a good spot actually. So interesting to see. There's some fun fights to make there. So, and the Warringtons and that are still hanging around on the fringes too. So let's see where it goes.
I hate that's where your mind went to on that, Rob. I mean, this was on a top ranked card. Let's get out Luis Alberto Lopez in with Robeisy Ramirez, man. Let's that's a fight I want to see.
Cracking fight.
I'm tired of sending these Mexican fighters over to your shores, and I not to skip too far ahead, but I thought that's Lara's deal. I think he's fucking sick of traveling.
Stop sending the fighters, send some of the women in states.
No, that's why I'm pissed. That's why I'm pro immigration reform. I want them women. They're fantastic looking gels, but it's just Lopez is a fantastic fighter. His style against Robeisy Ramirez and his tight boxing would be interesting. to see if Ramirez can cut angles, keep Lopez off balance, avoid getting caught with those shots. I told you guys last week I did not know why this was a 50-50 fight. I thought that Lopez was going to basically beat the crap out of Conlan. I saw him as an undeserving title challenger who had done nothing since he got knocked out by Lee Wood to show that he deserved this opportunity. And you ended up with a hurt fighter in front of his hometown fans. This is what happened. So anyhow.
No, you're quite right, Matty. I think even though he punches a lot harder, although Sergio Martinez is the guy that comes to mind. I mean, they're not stylistically the same, southpaw and all. Martinez held the hands a lot lower, but just that unorthodoxy. Apparently, Lopez didn't turn pro till he was like 21, did a bit of footballing, and that come into the game late on. You could see in Lopez, I mean, at one point, he pretty much dived across the ring with a lead left hook. That doesn't always work, that style. There is a reason why people learn boxing skills and learn to become textbook boxers. But every now and again, that unorthodoxy does benefit people. And it seems that Lopez's crazy, unusual angles really do benefit him.
Yeah, it works for him. He's very hard to prepare for. And he's been on a hot run since he suffered those, I believe, back-to-back defeats in his career. And I believe other than the Warrington fight, he's been stopping everybody along the way. He's learned how to punch a little bit along the way, and obviously we always have questions in boxing when that happens. But leave that as it may. I think that him against Robeisy Ramirez is a fantastic fight if he's going to stay with the top ranked banner or if he's not a free agent. I also think that 4 pounds north. Navarrete is not that much bigger than him. So I think him against Navarrete, two unorthodox guys, I think that one could absolutely produce the goods too. So I see a lot of good stuff for Luis Alberto Lopez, who is, definitely in the top 3 in the featherweight division at this point in time.
Andy, question for you. Skipping ahead a little bit, but I'll forget otherwise. I was talking to a friend of the pod, Dominic Henry, who came along last night to the fights with us, and he was talking about if Conlan were to lose, where would he go next? A few people have been talking about retirement. I personally think he'll have one last run. Mm-hmm. He might go up to super featherweight. Now, if he can't keep people off him at featherweight with the punching power, he's going to struggle, obviously, against the bigger beast, one division north, rather. But they might feel that, the built-in excuse possibly. It's hard to see where he goes from here, but I don't think he'll want to go out that way. I imagine they'll do exactly what they did after the Wood fight, try and get him back in the Odyssey. Even if the attendances drop off 10-15%, you'll still have a good crowd there. And just try and build him up as that one last run as a Belfast ticket seller and try and get him in another title shot and just see if he can finally pull it off. I don't think he'll want to go out that way. Although a lot of people, Andy, around ringside were talking retirement.
Yeah, and I would agree with them. I don't mean to say this by being bad or to troll people or just to be an arsehole or anything like that, but I'm going to step up and say Mick Conlan needs to retire. That's 2 bad knockouts in less than a year. He's had 2 fights in between those 2 knockouts. He's had 2 training camps. No doubt he's been taking extra damage, and it's not so much as he's been iced. Both those knockouts, that's big TBI, traumatic brain injury. That the brain doesn't forget. And what reminded me there last night was some of the comments Manny Shure said about Roy Jones after he got knocked out of Glenn Johnson. You get 2 bad knockouts back to back like that. Then there's going to be a degeneration in the brain at some point, mixed with well over 100 amateur fights. As I say, it seems to be in the last few fights that he's taking a wee bit more punishment. He's up my age now. What can I say, man? I mean, that guy Lopez last night was mocking him at times. He was smiling. He was dancing all over the place. Some people were mentioning steroids, the spotty back. And I had people message me. I've seen comments on that as well. Other places that he looked like he was possibly juiced. Don't know. Don't know if it was UCAD testing, VADA testing. No idea. But that Lopez can dig, man. I'm telling you right now, he's clearly refining a little bit. He's not the greatest technician, but he's quick, he's strong, he can work angles, he's got a wee bit of IQ about him, he's got timing, and he's got fucking power, man. And he could easily turn into one of the elite at 126 with that power as well. It just looks menacing. So yeah, look, fair play to Conlan as well. For some reason, he thought it was wise to come out and have it out with him. Try and plant his feet, stand his ground, try to get a bit of respect, possibly. I don't know. Try and make it an entertaining fight, possibly. Maybe the crowd got him amped up, possibly as well. Who knows? But that was clear early doors. That was a bad idea. Then you could just see it gradually getting beaten out of him, and then obviously the right uppercut I felt literally came out of nowhere. Even though he'd been thrown it, but it's just like woof, and it landed, and like Mick was like a slight delayed reaction before Mick went down.
I think as well, Andy, it was to do with what you mentioned there, his ring IQ. Like he is a massive puncher, and that made the difference ultimately. But what you said, watching him up close, he's not stupid. Like he picks his shots very well.
Yep.
He was throwing the right uppercut early, and then Mick was kind of adjusting to it. And every time he went up to block that from then on, he was digging in the body shots.
Yep.
And then whenever Mick was then expecting the body shots to come back again, he tried either the left hook or eventually the right uppercut. So absolutely right, ring IQ very underrated, I felt.
Yep, definitely. And as I say, he's only going to get better actually as well if he keeps doing that as well. I mean, a couple of L's in his record, who cares? He's obviously come back and he's learned from it. I say, that power as well. Definitely a smart fighter. Very, very, very cute. And so I think he'll only get better. And I reiterate again, Conlan's had a very, very accomplished career as an amateur. He was exceptional. Fought some of the best there is to fight in the amateur scene. Got robbed at the Olympics. We all know this. Probably should have went on to win a gold medal. Got robbed it. We all kind of questioned his lack of power possibly coming into the pro ranks, and it was looking that way pretty much. And then obviously he had that big knockout win in his last fight. Was it Kareem Gouffry, I think it was. But yep. I reiterate again, mate, that's 2 bad knockouts in less than a calendar year. The brain doesn't forget that type of shit, mate. And if you want to go again, look, at the end of the day, he's up at featherweight. We think he should be. He's maybe a wee bit too small for featherweight, possibly. Can he take the shot? I don't know, mate. I think if he goes again, I think it ends how it ended last night, and it could be him lying on the canvas again. And again, it just takes one punch to absolutely, not so much career threatening, but life changing. So he doesn't need it at this point, I don't think. And hopefully, again, I don't want to. I don't live in the guy's pocket, and I don't pay his bills, right? So he's got a family to feed and that as well. At the end of the day, but I'm only just trying to be, really honest about it as possible. Seeing those 2 knockouts and the manner how he was handled in it as well, it's concerning, especially in 20, 30 years down the road. Who knows what could happen to him? So hopefully someone sits him down and say, "Listen, it's probably time to go now, mate." It's and I can understand obviously getting knocked out like that in front of your own people, and that it's bad, but just you got to think about your health at this point.
Absolutely. Michael Alexander, Aussie, was standing over Conlan as the fight was counted out in round 5. Of course, it was ended in the corner by the white towel being raised by none other than Adam Booth, the man I once maybe unfairly coined as the Dark Fraud.
You're spot on, mate. He is a fraud. I've always been a bit dubious of Booth, and a lot of fighters go to him and then and do leave him quite quickly, and I think he's got a style which he seems to, it just doesn't work well with a lot of fighters. He'll occasionally have success, but in recent years, who can you tell me who he's worked wonders with? Because I can't remember, and I thought the tactics they decided to use last night were appalling. The only way Conlan was going to win that fight last night was if he could box and move, basically, and use it as boxer against puncher, and just not adapt like an amateur style, but kind of in and out, and away, and just stay on his toes, and just pick the rounds off like that. And they decided to adopt this like gung-ho aggressive style, which, Conlan's not a big puncher. I know he's got a few stoppages, but he's not a big puncher. And, at the top level, if you can't hurt people, it's always going to be a problem. And it just showed, and I thought, he fatigued. I thought he was starting to visibly tire. I thought Lopez, credit should be given to Lopez there, because I thought the shots he was landing, they weren't just hard shots, they were damaging shots as well. And whilst Conlan took them, I think each time Lopez landed, it just took that bit extra out of Conlan each time. It was a spectacular knockout. There was a couple of big knockouts on that card. The Pierce O'Leary knockout was fantastic. It was a great watch, a peach of a shot. And that was it. Was it COCR? He didn't really know where he was, to be honest. But yeah, for Conlan, it was a difficult night for him. It seemed a great atmosphere. Everybody was on the feet. I think pretty much everybody in that arena, was there to support Conlan. But it was another bad day at the office, and Andy's right. It's two brutal KOs now. Obviously, we don't know what his bank balance is like. Does he need to keep fighting? Does he not? But ultimately, for Conlan, he had all this success as an amateur. I've always said success in the amateurs does not mean guaranteed success as a pro. I thought he was fortunate, in a couple of. I thought that Ironot Baluta fight showed a lot. I thought Baluta, had a sniff of winning that back in 2021 because it's a style that Conlan don't like. That pressure style, winging in big shots, and he probably just nicked it. But yeah, I was just looking at, potentially domestically, if he was to go up to super feather, who could he box really? Because he can't be looking at going in at, basically world level or fringe world level straight away. I think, there's fights that he needs to be taking, from where, not necessarily saying he's domestic level, but what has Conlan proved, to be actually at European level or anything? He got that Guerfi win, but Jordan Gill banged out Guerfi, and Gill's not, fantastic or the biggest of punchers either. It was a decent win for Conlan, but again, does that put him at like European level or fringe world level? No, not for me. So just looking at the rankings now, the Joe Cordina fight is there, but it's way, way, way away, and Cordina would be a big favourite. I obviously can't. I don't think it. I assume Conlan and Kakachi are good friends, so obviously that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
that would be a big fight still. So
Kakachi's a big guy too.
I just think he's small for that. I think he's small for featherweight, let alone super.
Well, originally he was going to campaign at super bantam, wasn't he? But he couldn't quite make it, so they kind of just naturally progressed up to featherweight. So yeah, I don't know how he would fare Aussie at super feather, and the likes of Kakachi is very, very big on fight night.
Well, and Navarrete's with the top ranked stable. If he's still staying with them, and I mean Navarrete.
Oh mate, no way! Navarrete would fucking kill him. He'd kill him.
He's fighting Valdez next, isn't he? I think.
Well, I'm just looking, domestically again. If I was Warren, what I'd do is I'd take Nick Ball back to Ireland, and I'd get Nick Ball in. I'd offer Conlan a load of dough to fight Nick Ball.
How would Nick Ball's style fare against Lopez, Aussie?
Tough.
That's a war, mate.
It is a war, and I thought I like Ball, but I think look, he's on this fantastic run, and knocking out everybody who's in front of him, and that guy was tough last night. I thought he would have got him out, a bit before that, but he was tough. He could take a shot, and I don't look at Nick Ball and think, oh, I'll discredit him because this guy, he went 12 rounds. Some fighters are just naturally tough and, know how to soak up shots and can take it. And look, to his credit, Ball did get him out of there, and fingers crossed that Lamart, he left on a stretcher and had to go to hospital and everything's okay, and he makes a full recovery. I still think Nick Ball's probably 2 or 3 fights away from fighting the boys at the top, including Lopez in that. I think, we mentioned about, Joe Pigford having this padded record. I'm not saying Ball has got a completely padded record, but, what are his big wins on there? People like Isaac Lowe, that Lamarty's probably one of them last night. I think Ball needs, probably 2 or 3 more fights at that European level type of thing to have him ready. Because it's all right, going up to the, having a world level fight and winning, but it's about staying there as well. And you don't really want to be learning on the job. So I think, there's a lot of, there's good fights for Nick Ball that can be made from where, not necessarily a danger fights for him. I think what would be a good fight is maybe Jazza Dickens. I think that would be a really good fight for him.
They're talking about that next, I heard.
Well, yeah, I think that would be a great fight for him, and I think he'd stop Jazza Dickens as well, but that would be a good win. I think another one what would be good for him, and we say him about, he's still going, is Kiko Martinez. Because Martinez, is that ultimate, gatekeeper seems a bit harsh, for the career he's had. But if you're not good enough and on your game, Martinez will beat you, even at, this age, and, still. I think that would be a good fight for him. And Martinez has got that come forward style that would probably gel well with Nick Ball.
And if you're chinny, he'll find that out too.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think, I think if he was to box Dickens next, which I think that is a massive fight, by the way. I forgot
Dickens only beat Lee Wood 5 fights ago. So, you know what I mean?
Dickens, he didn't just beat Lee Wood, he fucking battered him as well, which is bizarre. And it just shows, fighters, the way they can develop even at the late stage of the game. But that Ball Dickens fight would be huge in Liverpool.
Wait,
I forgot
Kiko,
about
you still want to fight?
Well, I just said them, Martinez, that's another one. Personally, I'd box Dickens. If it was me, I'd go Dickens next, get that in Liverpool, big show, big win. And then if Ball wins, bring him back, bring Kiko over. And then, that's a good year. He's beat, the tough South African lad, beat Jazza Dickens, and then finishing style. And, if you can beat Kiko Martinez, then fair play, 2024, go and box for world titles. But I know there's the obsession with rushing him through, and it's the thing, right, he's at world level now, he's world level. He's not really, he's not got those wins. Warren can build a fighter, but he's also got it in him, to pad the records and get him an opportunity. But I do think Ball's good enough. His stablemate, Andrew Kane, came unstuck against Baluta in what was a close fight. And I think that's because Kane hadn't had, the tests. And I'd liken Kane's Baluta fight would be like Nick Ball against Kiko Martinez. So get Ball, that Dickens fight, see how he fares there, then box him against Martinez, and then move him up to that world level. And I think you'll see, a very good fighter and one that, has got a style, and he definitely hits hard enough and could well, be a world champion in his own right in the future.